All right. Hello and happy Thursday. Oh, here we go. Hi, hello and happy Thursday. Thank you all for joining the Alumni Society today for the latest installment of our Microlearning series, which provides actionable advice and insights from members for members. I'm Christina Merrill, Member and Community Engagement and Communications Manager at the Alumni Society and a proud graduate of Columbia. Today, I'm happy to welcome member Rose Hartwig. Rose is the managing partner of Marketing Fluency. Rose, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi there. I'm really excited to be here with you.
We're thrilled to have you. It's great to have you with us today. Time permitting, we will open the floor for questions from the audience. So if you have a question for Rose, feel free to go ahead and drop it in the chat and we'll try and get to it. But let's dive right in. Rose, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Rose Hartwig. I'm a marketing executive. I'm an advisor, a board member, proud graduate of Northwestern, Colombian and Italian heritage, born and raised in New York. Love new technologies. I've built my career in Silicon Valley, bringing amazing new products to market. And I'm a proud mom, 2 teens, and live in the San Francisco Bay Area with my husband, kids, and our dog.
Love it. Love it. And tell us a little bit more about what you do today.
Today, well, what I do is I advise companies on building their brands and businesses, especially as they're going through big changes. I serve as fractional interim CMO or marketing leader, and have done that for almost 10 years now. So I've seen it through a wide variety of companies, industries, and I serve on the board of Latinas in Tech in an organization called How Women Lead.
Excellent, excellent. So let's take a moment to define interim versus fractional leadership roles. What is the difference between a fractional leader and an interim leader?
Well, interim leaders tend to be seasoned executives who have held a particular role in the past. Maybe they've been a CFO, they've been a CMO, a head of people, and they're brought into companies to fill a gap full time while there's a search for a new leader potentially, or a company's going through transition, but they are fully stepping into the role, typically full time, and keeping that business running smoothly until a new leader is brought in. And sometimes, those C-level searches can last up to 6 months. So, that would be an interim role. Whereas a fractional role is typically a part-time position where you're coming in maybe 3 days a week to serve in a leadership capacity. Maybe you're managing a team, maybe you're leading a strategic initiative. But if you're serving in a fractional role, you might be working for one company 3 days a week and another company 1 day a week. And so that would be, a quick overview of maybe the difference between the two.
No, thank you so much. That's fantastic. And then you have held several interim and fractional leadership roles throughout your career. Tell us about your experience in these spaces.
Sure. Maybe I'll just start with the range of roles that can exist both in a fractional capacity and an interim capacity. So I've worked with a range of companies. I've been the first marketing hire at a startup. So that was like a half-time head of marketing, leading a function, sort of hiring in a team and getting things off the ground until it was the right phase for the company to bring someone in full-time. And I've done that for, consumer, for B2B type companies, range of industries, but really it's like the role is specific to the phase of a company and maybe the domain that that company operates in. I've also worked in a fractional capacity with larger companies. At larger companies, you tend to be like diving deep into transitions. So that would be a place where maybe a company is expanding into a new marketplace, or they're prepping to go public, or they have a large transformation that needs senior level attention. And so I'm coming in to either lead a particular initiative or be a right-hand person to a C-suite leader to help get this strategic project change transition moving forward. And so you have to really be able to adapt in these types of roles. That's what I really have found. Like, for example, at Peloton, I was brought in as an interim marketing exec to lead the global marketing team while a search was underway for a senior leader. Well, that was the start of the pandemic. So, you're navigating what not only what a company's going through, hyper growth, market expansion, product portfolio expansion, but then also uncertainties that come up, things you may not have ever faced before. So that ability to adapt, I think, is really important. And then you're serving in a role. So if it's the company's annual planning cycle, you're working on budgets, headcount, you're quickly fitting in to a team, trying to figure out the culture and leading change. And so what I have come to love and been drawn to with these types of roles is that ability to make an impact quickly, like to come in, to assess a problem, a situation, a team, and then help them, guide them forward, right? And so I feel like because I've worked at a range of companies and because I've been part of a wide variety of teams, worked with a lot of different leaders, I've had the opportunity to build and develop like processes, frameworks, ways of doing things that can be carried forward. And I feel like that's also really unique. I think there's a lot of value when you've seen many, many different situations, and then you can come and offer that into a new company and make an impact really quickly.
That's amazing. And so to confirm, how is being an interim or fractional leader different from being a consultant?
The way I would view it, different from being a consultant, is you are fully part of the team. A consultant, you're still you're providing an outside perspective. You might be tackling a specific project, but you're not embedded. I think that's the difference that I would associate, because I've also served as a consultant and advisor. But when you're brought in like as a fractional CFO, or you're brought in as an interim head of people, you're assuming that role. It might be in a part-time capacity, or it might be just for a certain period of time, but you are managing that team. You're overseeing, you're in their day-to-day operations and work. And so that's the distinction I would bring to it.
Amazing. Thank you. And why are we seeing more fractional and interim leadership opportunities these days?
I mean, you're seeing those terms being used a bit more and companies more open to it. And I think it's because of the nature of how fast things are changing, the dynamic environments that we're in, having that flexibility to be able to say, I'm not sure exactly the profile of the leader that I want for this phase of the company. And it buys time. Okay, maybe I could have a seasoned expert come in, help us keep the business running, or maybe this person is the type of profile of someone we're looking for, but we get to see it in action. And then it can help a leadership team really formulate what type of expertise do we really need at this point in time? Or maybe they just need very specific type of guidance for a period of time. And so again, rather than bring in someone full-time, if that need might be short-lived, fractional is a great way to have someone who has that experience, can contribute right away, and without that commitment to maybe bringing someone on full time if you're not exactly sure of the roles and responsibilities you want that person to have. So it reduces risk in that way. I mean, bringing in a C-suite leader and having turnover, that's expensive. It takes a lot of time. So I think it's a cost-effective option. It's a flexible option, especially, when you're navigating uncertainty, changing conditions. And I think we're seeing a lot of that today.
Very interesting. And which industries and or companies are more likely to have these types of opportunities?
I think, I don't know if it's specific to industry, but those sectors that are experiencing rapid change, that are, companies that are rapidly scaling, or they're pivoting, they're shifting a focus. Those tend to be companies that really want to bring in specialized expertise or someone who can help them navigate that transition. And we're seeing more and more companies go through these types of transitions. Also, small to mid-sized companies are really ones that don't have the resources necessarily to have a full-time executive team, and they often benefit from having fractional leaders in areas like finance or marketing or HR.
Amazing. Thank you. And then who would be best suited for an interim or fractional leadership role? What does that profile look like?
I think first and foremost, it's someone who's very experienced in that particular functional area, whether it's product, finance, marketing, et cetera. They've had experience managing transitions. Maybe it's mergers, acquisitions, turnarounds. They enjoy driving change, because I think that's at the foundation of these types of roles, is you need to make an impact in a short time frame. So they might be specialists in a particular area, and they can quickly come in, put on kind of a hat to look at the current situation and advise. So someone who has like experience, maybe you have been an advisor for companies, or maybe that's just an approach that you are known for. You can see things from many different perspectives. You are curious, you build rapport quickly, because you need to kind of be dropped into you're stepping into a situation where you need to meet new teams and build trust really quickly so that you can get stuff done. So I think that experience and expertise, like that adaptability, I think, the ability to be a great communicator, really, really highly valued.
Amazing. Amazing. And then on that note, what skills are companies looking for in the people who take on these interim and fractional leadership roles?
A combination of having a strategic mindset, but being able to execute, right? So that you can come in, see the big picture, but you can quickly develop a plan to move forward. You're a problem solver. You can navigate sticky situations. You can diagnose problems, but you can also implement solutions. You're organized. You can prioritize your time. I think that's a really big one, because a lot of things are thrown at you. You're in a new situation. And so, how to be able to parse out what matters, what doesn't, what to focus on, weeding out, the things that might be able to be lower priority, really, really important. And that's just on top of, your experience and expertise in a related, relevant area. But I think, yeah, those capabilities, those skills are really valued.
Incredible. And then if you're interested in an interim or fractional leadership opportunity, how do you begin looking for those opportunities?
Start with your network is what I would say first and foremost, because the people you've worked for, the people you've worked with, know you best. And that seems to be the fastest path towards finding roles like that. Because if those leaders find themselves in a situation where an executive is departing, someone's going on leave, there's a big project that their team just doesn't have the capacity to handle, you want to be on their mind. And so, and then because they've worked with you, it's a much easier way to bring you into an organization and then have you meet others. But at least you have that first person who can speak on your behalf, who can be that reference and supporter, like, And I think letting that network know that this is something you're interested in, that you're at a phase where you would like to pursue fractional roles, interim roles, if one should come up at their company, or if they hear of anything in their network, to keep you in mind. I really do believe that's the fastest path to like finding and then ultimately serving in those roles. Also, people who may have worked for you, who are now rising in their careers. Maybe they worked for you 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and now they're in leadership roles. I think that's sometimes overlooked. And I have found myself in a number of situations where I'm working with someone who was formerly on my team, who's now leading a functional area, but they're thinking like, wow, I have this gap. Who do I know that's senior enough, that has this experience, who's been through this before, that might be able to help me for a period of time or help our team? And if you can be that person and they know that you're looking for opportunities like that, again, that feels like a much faster path to finding and serving in these types of roles. There are fractional communities out there. If you go on LinkedIn, you search on the web, those are gaining a lot more traction, where there are communities of individuals that are saying, yes, this is the type of work I want to do. And they'll share opportunities, questions, situations they're coming across. And then I'd say the search firms also have started practices, many of them, to fill interim roles. I think those opportunities are fewer in nature. They tend to be with larger companies, but also something that, this community can explore. It's certainly, put your name out there in as many places as you can. I think just the traction you might see might be faster and more prevalent with the network that you already have.
Great advice. Love it. And then how can you best position yourself for a fractional or interim leadership role? How do you communicate your value proposition?
Yeah, I think this is really important, because if that is something you want to do, I would not recommend trying to straddle saying you're interested in fractional and also saying you're interested in full-time. I think that's really tricky. And so if you decide that this is a path that's interesting to pursue, I do recommend like really making sure your LinkedIn profile and the way that you talk about yourself and your experience is tailored for these types of roles. Like if you're going to put your resume or sign up through an executive search firm for interim roles, your LinkedIn profile, you want to highlight your expertise. What are those situations that you have like expertise in, you've done before, that you could picture yourself being dropped in to a new company and crushing it? Maybe you've led companies into the public market. Maybe you've been part of mergers, acquisitions, transition teams. Maybe you've helped expand into new geographies, or you've helped build new product portfolios. Think of those situations where you could take your expertise and bring it to others in a repeatable way. And I think if you can articulate that and have that shine through in your profile, the size of company you've worked with, the scale of the teams, the scale of the revenue, the stage of the company, or just the types of transitions you've been part of, types of strategic initiatives, I would showcase that. Showcase the problem that existed, your role in solving that, the results you achieved, because that's really what you want to showcase. And then I think it's creating that narrative to tell your network, what are those few sentences about why you're interested in fractional or interim work? What is it about it that draws you to it? What types of opportunities could you picture yourself in? And making sure that that comes through. And then, you could join these relevant groups, join these communities, connect with these specialized recruiters. But I would do that after you have your positioning down, after you've thought about those areas that you could, where you could add value to companies and the types of companies, the types of industries, because the quicker you can connect the dots for others, the easier they can think of you when those opportunities cross their desk.
Very cool. Very cool. And then our last question of what should you keep in mind when pursuing fractional or interim leadership roles?
What should you keep in mind? I think, well, a few things. Be prepared to quickly adapt to new environments, new cultures. Set your expectations. Like, I really think, if you're coming into a fractional role and you only can commit 50% of your time, you need to figure out how to draw those boundaries, set expectations about what 50% of your time means. Does that mean it's 2.5 days a week and those are fixed days, or are you prepared to make yourself available every day for a bit of time? There are some logistical challenges to working through something like that. And it's easy to spend far more time in a fractional role if you're not setting expectations up front. So I would absolutely do that, think that way. And I think being realistic about business development and financial planning. One of the things about fractional interim work is it's not set timeframes. And so you may have a fractional role, but you're thinking about how do you keep your pipeline filled? What's your next opportunity? So you're in a bit of sales mode part of the time, and that might be different from how you're used to thinking for full-time roles. And so I I get this question a lot from folks who are either just starting or have their first fractional role. It's like, oh, I have to keep thinking about the next fractional role. Yes, if that's the career you're choosing and you're counting on fractional or interim roles as a primary income source, like that is something to be mindful of in choosing this path versus a full-time role. So just want to, be super transparent, because some people really don't like promoting themselves, the selling part of what it takes to find those roles, and the income swings that might that kind of come alongside this type of work. Other things to keep in mind, I would say, keep that online presence updated. Be really methodical about how you go about networking, again, to think about building your pipeline of opportunities. And then if you are engaging with a company in a fractional capacity, get support for reviewing their contracts and agreements. They tend to be different. And so you'll want to maybe seek out someone who can help review those types of agreements, make sure it's aligned with your expectations. I think that's really, really important also. And some people overlook that particular step.
Amazing. Solid advice all around. Rose, thank you again so much for being here today and sharing your insight. You have some truly great experience in this area. And so we're just, thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom. How can members get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Rose Hartwig. You can email me at rose@marketingfluency.com, and happy to connect on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Thank you so much. To our audience, if you are interested in sharing your knowledge and insights in an upcoming microlearning series webinar, email us at members@thealumnisociety.com with your idea. Thank you all again for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day.